Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, weekly podcast where the team members, usually Cameron and me at this point, from That Nerdy Site, get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and as I said, joining me once again, Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on?
What is going on is you and I went and saw The Flash last night, so we're going to be talking about that, of course, continuing our ongoing run of spoiler-casty episodes. Probably been, I feel like we've only had like one normal-ish episode in a while. It's been like,
Yeah.
here's the thing we can talk about each week. So yeah, we'll be talking about The Flash, as we always do with these. We'll do kind of our spoiler-free impressions first, talking about anything that's basically, freely covered in marketing and all that kind of stuff. And then we will have a distinct breaking up point where we will dive into spoiler-filled territory for those who have not yet seen the film and maybe want to come back at a later point.
Mm-hmm.
But before we hop into that, if you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast everywhere you can, all that fun stuff. So spoiler-free thoughts first. Well, first things first, I'm going to say Ezra Miller needs help, and I hope they're getting it. And of course, we don't condone anything they've done. I feel like this is a weird thing because I feel like all people like reviewing and talking about this movie kind of like have this preface up front. But it's definitely something. Obviously, they are such a key and integral role of the film that it's not a matter of like, oh, seeing this movie is condoning their behavior for the last few years. In fact it will play a role in the enjoyability of this film, for myself at least, certainly. If you're not really like, if you don't want to support them, absolutely understandable, but we do hope they're getting help, and we do hope that anyone that they've wronged gets whatever due recompense is due to them. Anything to add, Cam?
Yeah. Well, first off, all kind of like you said, recompense or restitution for any wrongs committed obviously has to be the first. Like, that's the first token of and not token in a negative way, but that's the first step you need to take. And I hope that they do right by the people that they've harmed and hurt, as they get the help that they clearly desperately need. And I hope that happens. I was talking about this to my boss, actually. And she and I were talking about it because she went to go take her daughter and her daughter's friends to Elemental for her daughter's birthday. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go see The Flash. And she was like, oh, I'm like, I know it's really weird. And like, it's not complicated in the sense of it's a complex thing that people just don't understand. It's very much more of I am blowing out my receiver on this, so I'm just going to drop that down a bit. It is much more of a like complex because we're dealing with mental health issues. We're dealing with somebody who's very much in the public space, in the public eye. And we're dealing with like a lot of like, we know what's been confirmed, and we know what's currently in litigation, and we know that there's been a lot of like conjecture made about a lot of different things. This is of course not condoning any behavior. People's health comes first, and that also includes the well-being of the people that have been hurt by Ezra Miller. Wishing them the very best as well in whatever restitution and recovery comes their way. But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at with it.
Yeah. So the Ezra Miller, the obligatory at this point Ezra Miller disclaimer out of the way. Spoiler-free thoughts review of the film. Cameron, what did you think? We talked about it a little bit on our way home last night, but we were both kind of like, it's weird because we know we're going to podcast about it anyway.
It's true.
And also, has it sat with you differently now a day removed?
I think it has. I think that the way I would describe this film is I have not met a film that's gone so far out of its way to try to make me not like it.
Okay.
I like a lot about this movie. I think that it does things incredibly well. And as somebody who followed the original Flashpoint comic as it was coming out issue by issue, month by month, back in the day, and of course Flashpoint being the comic series that this, or like the comic run that this entire film is based off of. There's a lot that is honored in it, and it also does a lot, I think, to give a lot of shout out to people who are longtime DC property cinematic watchers. So like we're talking back to old Superman and all the films. If you are a diehard DC fanboy, or you've just enjoyed or maybe not like hate enjoyed maybe the vast DC cinematic experiences that have happened over the last like 50 years, since Donner Superman, you have a lot of nods to a lot of things going on here, as well as a lot of comic book based stuff to that it's being honored by. So it does a lot to that. I love about that. If you're wanting that out of a DC film where it's not like in your face so much for like the handful of Easter eggs, I think they do a great job here.
I think a lot of the Easter eggs are in your face, but
Oh, I meant like sometimes it feels like in DC films it like stops the film to just focus on some, and this one I feel like there's just so many of them it just kind of passes by as it went on. That being said, maybe you didn't feel that way. That's totally fine. That's fair. I think this film is going to be greatly up to interpretation. I don't think, from quality wise to a lot of different decisions that they made, whether from a fiscal and budgetary like avenue or a creative avenue, I have some disagreements with some stuff on it. But that being said, I think it's overall it's a solid film as far as it goes. The plot is ABC, goes through it just fine. Not too many plot holes. Does, I think, a good job of being enjoyable as far as like it is quick and it is quick and consistent with how concise they're moving along in the plot. And they keep it very for a time traveling movie, they do keep it pretty bare, like too like strict to like some bare bones. It doesn't get too far up its own behind when it comes to the science of everything. So
yeah, this is like, I think how you feel about this movie is going to be determined probably within the first 10 minutes of this movie.
yeah,
The opening sequence in particular very much sets a tone, and if you are along for the ride of that tone, you're going to be along for the ride of this movie. I was not.
hmm
That opening sequence basically did a pretty good job losing me at the beginning, and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like the CG. I don't like the idea of this action sequence. I don't like the humor that they're trying to play with here. Like, it was just missing on pretty much every level for me. And that became very hard for the movie to bounce back from. And I think there were a few moments that like were enjoyable. And yeah, if you are a longtime DC fan and all that kind of stuff, there's going to be lots of little like, it's much like the Mario movie. It's going to be a lot of like, hey, look at that. I see that thing. It's the Leonardo DiCaprio meme over and over and over again. I don't know if they always serve the movie as well, so much as just like, okay, that's a nostalgia bump, cute. But there are some like beacons in here, but they are also very much tempered by the knowledge that like none of this matters in the grand DC universe scheme of things anymore, with James Gunn kind of basically pressing the reset button. And I think there are specific moments in this movie that you do like specifically feel that effect, and we'll dive into some of that in the spoiler filled territory. But it is like, okay, they introduce some characters and it's like, oh, that would be cool to see those characters moving forward, but we know we're not going to see
yeah,
those characters moving forward, or if we do, it's going to be a completely different like permutation and whatever. And so like this movie suffers a lot from the baggage of the last 10 years of the DCEU, since, going back to Man of Steel and kind of the all over the mapness of those films. It tries to do a lot of the same things that like No Way Home tried to do, but I think No Way Home nails them better in pretty much every beat. But there are some shining points. Like, it is fun. Even like, I grew up with the 89 Batman. I'm not like beholden and like beloved of it, in large part because I don't typically vibe with Tim Burton-ness, but it's very fun seeing Michael Keaton back as Batman and kind of like playing that, version of Batman again. I think Sasha Kaye is a lot of fun in here as Supergirl.
Mm-hmm.
I wish she had a lot more to do.
Yes.
Because it is like, oh, there's like a glimmer of something good there, and it's just
the glimmer.
It's just a glimmer. The movie doesn't give it the room to breathe that it needs to. CG is really bad. We talked about this a lot, and we'll talk about it in specifics. CG like throughout is really bad, with the exception of, and I think like there is an element of like maybe this is where all of the CG budget went.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you do forget that there are not two Ezra Millers really in this world.
Absolutely.
And so all of the scenes that like, and there are a lot of them where Ezra Miller is acting opposite Ezra Miller, like all of those feel and like look really good, really natural. There's like not this weird, it's not the like, oh, you can see where like the seam is
it's not the Parent Trap, right?
In Parent Trap or Back to the Future Part 2. And so it is
it feels like they shared the scene together.
Yeah.
You're right. I didn't even think about that. I did completely forget there aren't two Ezra Millers.
Right. Yeah. I had that moment like when we were driving home last night and talking about how bad the CG was. I was thinking, I was like, but like those moments worked. Like so it is weird that like those work fine and then CG elsewhere is just bad all over the place. But so much like I said, that like a lot of this movie, I think more than any DC movie, kind of leans into not even comic book so much as cartoony. There are very specific, like even like very overt call outs and references to the cartoony nature of sequences. And that's just like, it's so at odds with the Snyderverse, like that we've had and kind of everything that has built up before it. So yeah, there's just a lot of like tonal weirdness and while
it's set up in that first 10 minutes. If you don't feel the tone of that first 10 minutes, this film's not going to be for you. You nailed that.
Yeah. And shouting out, Michael Keaton and Sasha Kaye, the whole Ezra Miller-ness of it is like, they're fine, but I think given the amount of like eyes that were on this, there's no reason that Flash couldn't have been recast with a better or more suitable actor. I think like it is frustrating that they got so in lockstep and were like, they're our person. We're gonna stand by them and we're gonna keep making this movie with them. We're not gonna like thinking back to and obviously wildly different scales and all that stuff, but like I think back to, that like when Kevin Spacey just blew up and everybody was like, fuck Kevin Spacey. Like a movie came out 2 months later that had Christopher Plummer just completely like replacing his role in there. And I think like this movie's been in development for so long. I think it's definitely something that should have been more strongly examined, because it was unsettling and off-putting, seeing them knowing kind of all the baggage of the real world circumstances of like, I don't like that I'm spending so much time having to like root for this person, and also I just don't like their interpretation of the Flash as much.
That's fair.
Like a lot of those beats just didn't work for me.
For me, when it comes to that level, I think I did also have that trepidation, but I think we also talked about it last night. You and I were formerly big fans of Ezra Miller. We enjoyed their prior work in pretty much everything. I've been a proponent for Ezra Miller for a long time, since a lot of their earlier work. And so getting to see them and knowing that they're such a passionate fan of a lot of especially at the time, pre-turf outing of J.K. Rowling, like there was a lot of excitement around them being the Fantastic Beasts series, or just really that first film. and there was a lot of excitement and enjoyability, and then them being so pro, like them so pro and vocal about like fight, like being vocal about being against the alt-right movements going on in the United States, them coming out as being non-binary, and really pushing for like they them representation. There's a lot to root for with Ezra Miller, and we put it at the disclaimer. I'm not going to rehash it, but it is a there is a I'm trying to think of the word, but there is a discombobulation with wanting to root for this and wanting and for me, I don't dislike their interpretation of the Flash as much. I feel like there is a level like the question has been brought up plenty of times by plenty of other people talking about like where on the spectrum this Flash lands. But I have always enjoyed it being. I enjoyed their Flash enough, and enjoyed them as an actor. Yeah, I think actor is still. I was trying to think. Was there a they them version of actor? But I think it's just actor. But I've enjoyed them as a performer for long enough that that wasn't the case. It's discombobulating trying to deal with the and mentally kind of like like do you compartmentalize it? Like the gymnastics you have to go through to try to enjoy their performance is very off-putting and difficult. And I think it's a good performance. That being said, at what point do you say we are going to cancel this movie, or we are going to reshoot it, we are going to redo it on that level? And also it's weird that also there's like there's a minor beat of like part of like the time like finagling ramifications plot point that now kind of comes around full circle and becomes a meta conversation, I think. We'll talk about it in the spoiler section, but yeah, there is I don't think there's a reason why they couldn't have recast the Flash. I think there were like I think in the future there will be a look back and an analysis of the decisions that were being made over time between, I think it must have been like, was it two or like, is it just two different leadership shifts around this project, or was it three?
I've lost track.
Well, if we're talking about back when the project was first announced back in like what 2014, there had to been like what 5 or 6. Like it's difficult to try to pen down, especially since Warner Brothers I think has gone through 2 acquisitions during this time. So it's
there was AT&T and then
Discovery.
Discovery,
yeah, it's trying to keep track and figuring out where like who's the person who could have even made that decision at this point. I think it would have had to come from the very top, and at that point, getting somebody to do a quote unquote moral thing is like to the great unfortunate circumstances of modern capitalistic society we live in, borderline impossible. I don't think it's impossible for us as a fans, as us as moviegoers to accept that. I think the impossibility must have been people looking at budgets and money, especially during acquisitions with Discovery, and making that decision for the purpose of money and not like. I don't know if there is an like the easy moral answer is to say of course recast. Where the ramifications of that come into line, I don't know.
Yeah,
and it's impossible for us at this stage, especially with the movie just coming out, to know really until like NDAs expire at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so those are our spoiler-free thoughts. So last chance to hop off before we dive into full spoiler territory. Ultimately, I guess I'm in a, if you really like DC, go see it, but you can probably also just wait a month and a half, and this will be on HBO Max. I'm going to keep calling it HBO Max. Fuck Discovery's like rebranding of that.
I hate that as well, because we'll watch it on Max. Who wants to say that? HBO's such a anyway.
It's I don't know if you've seen, but like there's specifically things going around saying, well, HBO Max was is a network, or is a cable like streaming platform, whereas it's oh, people they didn't have to they don't have to keep sending out residuals because it's no longer HBO Max.
Oh, that's
Max.
disgusting.
Yeah.
And really messed up. And wow.
Yeah.
Man, F that. Holy crap.
It's more Warner Brothers Discovery.
Oh, it's like how they moved
shit.
they moved it from like writers to creators.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, you just love to see that. Oh my gosh, I freaking hate this. Ugh.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I'm very much in a like don't go see it. Probably you're not missing much unless you're like a super diehard DC fan and really want to go see this through to the end. But like, I mean, I still haven't gone back and watched Shazam, and like I enjoyed the first Shazam a lot.
I haven't seen it yet.
Haven't cared. So
I haven't even seen Fury of the Gods, and I don't really plan to.
That's what I'm saying. I've not seen Fury of the Gods.
That being said, there is a time-old tradition that I have not partaken of in a very, very, very long time. But you know, if you know what I'm talking, if you know, hoist the colors, you mateys, RR.
Oh, you're talking about pirating the movie.
What? No, never.
I mean, don't do that.
Okay.
Like, don't like that. That is, I definitely wouldn't condone that. Like, don't. My answer is not like,
steal.
Oh, you want to watch this movie? Okay, but don't pay for it. No, like if you're gonna watch a movie, pay for the fucking movie. It's you can deal with that. Other people wait for 2 months and it'll be part of your subscription service stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's you're just a weird fucking guy, Cameron.
Sometimes,
anyway, what like where do you fall in the recommendation ultimately?
My recommendation, if you want to, I'm with you. If you want to see it to the very end, go see it. If you want to give this movie a shot, go see it. But I am not here telling you that this is a must watch. I don't think it is. I even without the Ezra Miller controversy around it, I don't think that it is. If you were like me, a big fan of the Flashpoint comic book series, and you don't want to support this financially, and you want to roll into your subscription with Max, HBO Max, feel free to just wait for it. And I'm sure it'll be available on because of course that service isn't available in every country. Whatever services it ends up rolling out on, you can always check it out there.
Yeah.
But this is not running to the theaters. Don't feel the need to inflate these box office numbers.
Yeah. All right. Then I'm going to go ahead and switch us over into spoiler territory here.
Spoiler mode.
So the first thing I want to kick off with, and this may be what you were alluding to in terms of like, oh, there was a timeline thing. Like, I loathe, and I didn't like it in the moment, and as a day has passed and I've continued to think about it, I hate the fact that we go through this entire movie where Barry like learns the lesson of he has to accept the past and can't change it, and then at the very last minute still fucking changes it to like save his dad. So he has learned.
Oh, that's not what I was talking about.
Barry Allen has learned no lessons in this movie, and it's like, why did I fucking sit through 2 hours of this movie? Like, what? Why was that? God, fucking.
It's
like it's a cute little gag of like, oh, he swapped the tomato shelves so his dad looks up at the camera and he gets to save his dad, and oh, we get George Clooney as a cameo, but it's like this doesn't, like, you've completely undone any character development that you just spent 2 hours trying to.
He still lets his mom die, dude.
He doesn't learn the lesson of like, hey, you can't change the past. You have to like live with your past.
I mean,
live with your stuff. Like
the basic thing that I think is like the easy slot in there to say is, you can't change an event of the past, but his dad looking up and being caught on camera, because it's not like his dad wasn't there. It's just that the angle of the camera and everything, he did it. So he just changed it so his dad would look up. And like you can say it like
changes the past.
It doesn't change the events of what happened that day though.
It
changes how it's been recorded
based on how the film is presenting the timeline of things, and that it's spaghetti, and it's not the Back to the Future, oh, you created a branching point. It is like, oh, there's a fulcrum, and oh, everything's just a mess of spaghetti. Like,
but that's all events though. He doesn't change any events.
He does. Like, we see it very clearly in the George Clooney-ness of the end.
No, let me rephrase that. he doesn't.
He has changed the world
in a way. Yes, you're right. You know what? I take that all back. You're right. You're 100%. I forgot about the George Clooney thing.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Because at the very end, he also has that moment. He's like, "Oh no, I fucked up again." So I guess he goes back in time and fucks his dad over. I don't know. Like, we don't know how.
No, he does. Like I mean, you're talking the Jason Momoa like post credits thing. Like the gist of that scene is he just says "fuck off, Ben Affleck," and he's gonna go with this universe. He's gonna sacrifice that version of Batman so that his dad can be free. He's Barry Allen's not a good dude. And so yeah, I hate that is how this movie like wraps up its story. So that's what I wanted to kick off.
I thought that was played off more for laughs, but then again, looking back at it, maybe I don't know. I don't think that actually changes how I feel about the movie. So
yeah, that's fine. It's just a thing that it like I don't really care about like the Ben Affleckness of it. It is just like a throwing it in the face of like, nope. All that character growth and character development that happens there in the third act, just completely undone because he goes back to, let his mom die, but then still changes things. So, yeah, it did not work for me in a very visceral way.
There's a trope term called for a want of a nail, and it's how something like this can make a drastic change. You're right. Like, and it can alter things significantly. You're not wrong. I don't think you're wrong on that at all. I just don't think I'm bothered by that.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think it was like he thought, okay, I can't change events. Like I said, the easy slot and thing there is, well, he didn't think he could change events, but he could change how that event got recorded in that moment. But like you said, for one, like in like trope is for want of a nail, et cetera, et cetera. Like we get the fallout of all of that, and it ends up with George Clooney. Coming back in, which never in a million years would I have seen George Clooney coming back to do Batman.
Yeah, I mean there's also stuff out there of like, oh, that was a reshoot, like, and it's like the rumors were that the original ending was Henry Cavill and Sasha Calle in there as Supergirl and Michael Keaton Batman, like that being the like altered timeline, was that like those characters from the other kind of like branched over into this one. But I think again, because James Gunn's blowing everything up and kind of starting new, they were like, well, let's just end it with a gag. Let's call up Clooney.
That sounds like a fucking James Gunn thing to do. Yeah. Not even gonna lie, that sounds like a James Gunn ass thing to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe I don't know. For me on that level, I think overall, I was actually referring to the Eric Stoltz thing. Back to the Future.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about like they should have recast him for that. Like for that, it's like, well, Eric Stoltz is like, they even make a comment. They're like, he was so stoic, and it's like, yeah, that's why he got like bounced from the role. And it's like, I like how they immediately in like a couple moments take a note for like the alternative casting up, like it's been long. Like the 80s is a crazy time for like what could have happened with different films casting based off of the different people that were available at the time or who were originally interested but then passed, like all that stuff, like the idea of like
I mean, like, yeah. I don't think any of those things were like legitimate alternate cast apart from the Eric Stoltz one, of course.
Well, no, not alternate casting where they actually shot it, but other people were up for those roles.
I mean, yeah. Any like Rob Lowe was probably up for all those roles too.
Absolutely,
they don't throw Rob Lowe in there as like the
no,
guy.
They don't.
Like so, yeah. And I definitely thought that, especially because the movie spends so much time saying like, oh, Eric Stoltz is Marty McFly in this alternate timeline, which is like one of the few things that I like appreciate and enjoyed of this movie. And it also was like the first thing of like, well, that would have happened well before the events that he has gone back to change. So how did he alter that, version of the past kind of thing? There were definitely like weird, like, I don't understand how this timeline thing works until they give us the spaghetti analogy there. But yeah, like because they spend so much time like putting it forward that like, yeah, there was like in this universe, Eric Stoltz filmed the entire movie and and Michael J. Fox never came in and did it. It very much just continued to beg the question of like, okay, then why did you keep Ezra Miller?
That's what I was referring to. Is like there's now meta commentary about why did you keep somebody who you knew was a problem. Especially if you were already going to do reshoots anyway, James Gunn. I'm just pointing that out there. Putting that out there, James.
I mean, by the time James Gunn came along,
that's fair.
It would have been way too deep into production to scrap that. But like the Ezra Miller stuff has been going on for a couple of years.
Yeah.
They could have made some calls, earlier in the pandemic and stuff like that, and reshot and redone that stuff. Where you want to go spoiler wise?
Spoiler wise, I think we just go right into. I mean, we've kind of like talked about mixed bag, but let's talk about the scene that sets the tone for the entire movie.
Sure. Yeah.
The babies and the dog and the nurse. And I fucking hate the CG in this movie. On those moments. I think the CG in the way that the
Speed Force.
The Speed Force works. I think how it works on the Flash. The different flashes, I like the blue lightning, the yellow lightning. I like there's a lot of stuff about it that I like about it. However, anything that's reflected in the Speed Force all sucks.
Gotcha.
It's like
all of like the repeated images of all the people around.
I think the repeating of the images is fine. Mm-hmm. The quality of the images that were repeated were fucking terrible.
Yeah.
I like the way that they show how his powers are kind of like working and how they impact the world around him. I love the notes of it feels like he's always stealing food from people because he just has to keep that caloric intake going. Like, I appreciate that.
I mean, even that is I don't.
Okay.
Like, it's like just repetitive theft is not a superhero thing. Like, just stealing from people for your own gains is antithesis to being a superhero. So, like, get your shit together, Barry. And like, yeah, I do not like this version of Barry Allen is what I'm continuing to realize.
That's fair. I think that's totally fair. I like that aspect of it. I like that. There is my biggest problem is that we know the best speedster scenes that have ever existed, and they exist in a completely different franchise under a completely different studio. I'm referring to Quicksilver in the Days of Future Past, like the First Class Days of Future Past. Even his scene in X-Men Apocalypse is good, where he does that through the mansion.
I don't even remember that. No, Mansion's Days of Future Past.
No, that's X-Men Apocalypse, because they're coming back, because you have Jean Grey and Cyclops and everybody coming back from seeing Return of the Jedi in theaters. Nightcrawler, they're in the car, and he passes them.
Then what's the one in Days of Future Past?
Future Past is
I guess it is only Days. I guess he's not.
Oh, sorry, yeah, he's not in First Class. I meant the First Class era.
Gotcha.
Because
I'm like, it was his second appearance.
You're right. You are right.
Yeah. We got Quicksilver.
Yeah, no, I just made the mistake of mentioning First Class, but I meant that kind of in that series of films. His Days of Future Past. Yeah,
those are fun. Yeah, the Speed Force stuff in this, it's like whatever. And then, but yes, this opening sequence is just like.
Also, I'm just going to mention
throwing babies out of a 30-floor building, not a fun way to start a movie. Even if they're all going to be saved, it's just like it's not a funny idea for a sequence.
They're going to be one's going to get splashed by acid and one's going to get impaled by scalpels. None of that's fun.
Yeah,
and also
this is absolutely again the this isn't a comic book thing. This is a full-on fucking cartoon.
Yeah. Another thing also is, and this is what gets me, is the microwave dings, which means the baby was in a live microwave, which bothers me on that level. But that's a little thing that's a hang up for me. Mm-hmm. That I'm sure is not a hang up for anybody else, but that's a hang up for me. It's like you're like, yeah, I saved the baby. It wasn't engulfed in flames. It's like, no, but you radiated it in a microwave.
Yeah.
For two seconds is long enough, Barry. Like, what the hell? It's like, but he saved all the babies and it's all in one row. And I'm like, so frustrated by how, that jarringness of that CG, the CGI in that is just so, just so upsetting. And I never was okay with that CGI popping up that way again for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Which is... it's crazy because there's some really cool, what could have been cool moments with Zod and Kara and the Barry 2 going back and trying to save her over and over again, and it's being shown how it's working in the Speed Force from Barry 1's perspective, it's really frustrating because that looks like shit. The bad modeling, not bad modeling, I forgot if it's like the finish, the matting, whatever, masking, whatever the term is for graphic design and 3D imaging for that, like more realistic layers that need it, like you need to put a lot more detail and more assets on top of it.
Yeah, they all, like, anytime we're in the Speed Force, the CG, and even out of the Speed Force, a lot of the CG looks like the CG you see in like a deleted scene of like, we didn't finish the CG on this scene, but here it is. Here's what the previs basically looked like. And yeah, it's just it looks so rough. And like the director's coming out basically trying to save face on
Oh my gosh.
like, oh, we like, no, that was intentional. Like we designed it like that. And it's like,
that was not a creative decision. That was a budgetary decision. Just be honest with people.
It's like budgetary or creative, like it like budgetary, they've thrown so much damn money at this movie and so much time at it. Like, it doesn't seem like it was budgetary. It seems like it was a conscious decision to let it just be that bad.
Which is shitty.
And yeah. And maybe there was a budgetary element in terms of like, well, DC Universe is getting scrapped, so we're not going to throw the last few months of CG work on it.
That's where my thought was. It's like, hey, we're blowing everything up. And so it's like, okay, well, we still have like we still have like 4 or 5 more months of CG work that still needs to be done. No.
Yeah,
you have 3 weeks to finish whatever CG you need on it. Like that sounds like something that will be coming out verbally. It's really upsetting for someone to be like, that's how we think the Speed Force is. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. It looks bad.
It's like, okay, if that's your excuse for the Speed Force, why does the rest of the CG, apart from the 2 berries, suck?
Well, I like the CG of when they're fighting, when the 2 Flashes are fighting, not each other in the Speed Force, but rather when they're doing
the final sequence.
The final sequence, the final battle. I thought that entire final battle was really cool. I thought that their use of, like, I thought it was smart. They changed up Barry's lightning color to the yellow. Or maybe it was always gold. I don't recall off the top of my head, but all I know is I like the color distinction. So I could tell when they were showing somebody running real fast which one it was, and I didn't have to pay attention to Barry 2's terrible fucking outfit. Like, all that being said, there are parts of this movie that I enjoy, CG wise even. But that one sets the tone for, hey, a good chunk of this movie is going to look like this.
Yeah.
At which point, fuck you.
Yeah, and so that again, that opening sequence, even starting before, even the lead up to the hospital stuff of like the coffee shop, like, oh, I'm already late. Okay, Barry, like, you're the fucking fastest person in the world. Why are you late, and why are you always late? Why are you so fucking bad at living that like you are just always perennially late when you are the last person in the universe that should be always late? And I don't know if that's like a staple of the character in the comics.
It's in all Flash media. That's kind of the thing, is usually because, but here's the thing, they don't ever give the reason why he's late, because in other things he's late because he's saving people's lives.
Sure. And if that was the case here, but it's not. Like, he wasn't saving lives right before he went in the coffee shop, because we very much see, oh no, this is his, I'm going to go save lives, like, during his coffee shop visit thing today.
Well, the thing is,
he's already, like, if it was like, oh, he was feeling good, he was like on time, he was going to make it to work on time, and then all of the hospital stuff comes up, and that's why he's late to work, fine. But like, he comes in and says to the barista, I'm already late. I'm 3 minutes late. I need my, where's my usual person? I need my usual sandwich. And I was just like, I don't like this. And the humor in that sequence, not good at all.
If it had started with, like you said, him getting off on the right foot, right, of the day, he's like, oh, I'm gonna be early to work, and then he like starts seeing problems and he starts saving lives, and he does that, and then he gets to his thing and he's like, I have to, like, I need, like, caloric intake, I need food because I've been saving lives. I go in, I get my I need my usual, and it's usually here, and now it's that, and like looking at the watch, looking at his watch, looking at everything, and it's like tick 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 tick. And once again, reiterating, this movie's about time, right? And you could have done that to basically be like, yeah, no, he was going to be early, then he saved lives. Now he's running up, like he could be running late. And now this barista's taking up his time, and it's tick, 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 tick. And then he gets a call from Alfred, has to do Justice League stuff, gets back. Like, you could have done that to show, hey, Barry does a lot of good, which also means that, like, the way he feels disgruntled a little bit about being the quote-unquote janitor of the Justice League, that could have been a better, like, you could have done a lot more with all of this. But they don't.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because it's like, I look at that and I'm like, yeah, no, I see exactly what you mean by that. Yeah, it starts off real rough in places. I like the way that it kind of like goes throughout the film, but it lost you and it never brought you really back.
Yeah.
It brought me back after that with there is a moment where he is talking to, it's when the Justice League kind of gets all together. When you get Wonder Woman.
By that, you mean Wonder Woman, Batman, and Barry. Half the Justice League.
Half the Justice League gets together. When they like everything kind of comes in, we get some Batfleck, we get some Wonder Woman, we get the da na 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 music from her.
Yep.
I did a bad job on that.
Indeed.
I know. I'm bad. I'm sorry.
No worries about copyright claim on this video.
Yep. Nope. No worries at all. But you get like that whole like na na na.
Yes. We get the
Wonder Woman theme.
Intro.
You get that. You get some like fun. Like you get some fun stuff where it's just like, oh, my ego's too big for me to ever actually be able to say thank you. And then he's like, oh, the lasso of truth. It's like, I'm like, I enjoy that.
But even there, they get like that beat fine. The fact that they carry it over into Barry being like I know what sex is, I've just never had it. It's like that.
Yeah, didn't need that.
Didn't need that at all. That's not a relevant beat that I needed to know about this character. It doesn't benefit this character in any way. It doesn't hurt the character either. It's just a needless, like, that was a waste of time.
It would have been a good moment for him to be like when he touches that. He goes, I know I take food from people, but then I track them down and I give them money. Like, and I make recompense on it.
Sure.
And it'd be like, that's that's definitely something you would keep personal to yourself because you also don't want your colleagues to know that you steal. Mm-hmm. But you like that could have been an entire thing, and they just don't. They just go with he's a loser virgin.
Yeah.
He has no friends. And it's like,
oh my God, like the
lab like partners, lab people.
The people at the lab that like are
just shitty.
Going out to lunch with him as if they're friends or whatever, that just continually shit on, like, and are very clearly not his friends. Is like, what the fuck purpose do these people serve? And it's
then it shows later they're actually his friends in the other one, right?
In the alternate universe, sure, but it's still like these people just fucking suck.
Yeah.
And even in the alternate universe, they don't like bring a lot to, like, you could have had the alternate universe stuff could have just all been Gary, the other random guy on the couch. The fact that like we end up seeing Barry living with this random guy and those other two people, it's like what
he's also in college, like he's 18.
Yeah.
Like it's also, but also the inference is that they don't know who Iris West is, but Iris West went to school with Barry. So do they not go to the same Central City University or wherever it is that they went to? Like, I'm confused about the whole, like, where that is.
You're saying like in this timeline they don't know who Iris is?
No. So Barry mentions, oh, I'm going, like, I have a date for my girl from my econ class, Iris West, and then it's like, and then he's like roommates with them, but also aren't they also in school? But wouldn't they anyway? I'm just.
I don't remember Iris coming up with them. Like Iris Barry, comes up with the parents.
No, Barry with when they run into Iris West at the press conference when Barry's leaving for lunch or I guess after work maybe with his cohorts. Mm-hmm. And as they're leaving, Iris West comes over and
I mean, but that was like years later.
I mean, yeah, that's fair.
Like that's years after they've been to college. That like Barry in this timeline hasn't seen her for a few years since the events of Snyderverse.
That's true.
Batman v Superman.
Oh yeah, I feel like we saw each other
Justice League, rather.
Yeah, I feel like we saw each other not too long ago, or like a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're right. Yeah, no. Anyway, like there's a lot about it. Like also, let's talk about Iris West. That's a problem. She's just a plot device to bring trauma and like show us how awkward and awful Barry is.
Yeah, it like definitely like, and I like Kiersey Clemons.
She's a great actress.
She does like they didn't give her anything in this.
Nope.
They haven't given her anything in the last movie either, or in the Snyderverse Justice League either. So it was like, what, like,
I mean, she actually gets to show up in the Snyderverse Justice League.
Yeah, exactly. Like she was cast back in the original Justice League stuff, and all her stuff got cut out when Whedon took over. So it was like, okay, what the fuck is the point? And so yeah, this being like, if you never watched the Snyderverse, this is the first time we've seen Iris West, and it's like, okay, this movie is basically relying on, hey, hope you watch the CW show to know that these two are supposed to be together, because we're not gonna bother doing any work to help set that up. Apart from like, she clearly has some kind of like little crush on him or whatever, and is flirty with him, and he obviously likes her as well, to the point that he goes in and like super speedily tries to clean up his room. Fun little gag where like, yeah, I'm super tidy, and then just everything falls out of a cabinet, and then
Also the one when he
repeat that beat later.
Yeah, I enjoyed both beats. I'm glad they didn't do it a third time.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed both beats of that, because also the second one was after Heath left, so we don't even get to see his expression. We just see her, Barry. Like, this also clashes with like, did they like? It's like, so were they actually close and friends? Because it feels like that, like there's a mix of like rapport of like, we didn't really know each other. Now we're getting this kind of shot to get to know each other, and then there's also a feeling of like, oh well, no, we knew each other enough to have a rapport to kind of know enough about each other. It's like, where is this balance? And I feel like the writing misses, like, there's a lot of times I think when it comes to the plot, the overall plot, that I think the like goes perfectly fine, but it's in these interpersonal relationships that are trying to establish what Barry's life is like I'm just going to call it Flashpoint, when he goes back in time.
Mm-hmm.
Pre-Flashpoint, that are really broken up and not reliable narration to carry us through.
Yeah.
To understand why these later relationships matter.
And that, like, that in particular is like Iris just could have been completely cut out of this movie too.
Yes.
And it wouldn't have, like, probably would have helped the pacing a little bit, honestly. And like, it would not have, because it already feels like she's cut out of a good chunk of it. Because it feels like you introduce her in Barry 1's timeline, so that like when we find out he's got a date with her in Barry 2's timeline, and then doesn't go to that date, we would get some kind of like payoff or fallout of that. Like, she shows up at the place when they're having the whole conversation about Eric Stoltz and all that stuff, but she doesn't. We just don't see her ever in that version, that timeline.
Instead of his shitty cohorts, and I mean, honestly, I actually liked Gary, like a little bit.
I mean, like
the tattoo was what got me. Like, he has Eric Stoltz on his leg as Marty McFly.
Sure.
That being said, like, that still could have been like, hey, why the hell did you like her Iris busting and being like, why'd you stand me up, when they're at the apartment at some point, and then I don't know, maybe she's a great actress, maybe have her along for like part of this at least. I don't know. She's not in it enough to justify an actress of this caliber being in this small of a role.
Yeah.
And a misused of a role. I'm gonna put this out there. Hey, if you're making a superhero movie where there is a strongly written female, like, or not even female, just romantic interest regardless of gender, give them something to do besides just being the love interest. Because guess what? Comic books have literally been doing that for a long time now. Most comic books have moved past that. Now the love interest is actually intricate to plot and development of the overall arching stories.
Cough, Spider-Verse, cough, cough. Yeah. So yeah, the Iris Westness of this, I was just like, why is that a thing? Also, like, it especially given the like, why couldn't they just recast Ezra Miller? The weirdness of being like, I don't remember the guy from Office Space being Barry's dad in previous movies, and yeah, nope, it was Billy Crudup before, so they recast that role, and like, he's fine, whatever.
I like him.
Basically the exact same beats we've already gotten from that character in other DCEU movies, and it's like, all right, he, like, obviously, yeah, he's very much resigned to his fate, and his whole thing seems to always be go live your life, Barry.
Maybe that's like Barry's lesson he needs to learn is go live his goddamn life.
And that's the lesson he's supposed to learn, yeah. Instead, he's like, no, I want to change the past again. Yeah. Anything else before we get to like the Flashpoint stuff to jump in on in the beginning of the movie?
No, I think we're good just to move into it.
Yeah.
I think we're just all of those things aside, let's talk about the Flashpoint side of things, which is I like the overall story. I like the time travel aspect, the want of a nail. Not originally want of a nail, it's a big change. You deliberately put a can so that a person doesn't leave a place so that the murder doesn't happen, although we never get the answer of who the murderer was anyway.
Yeah.
Because
yeah, that is a very weird, like, critical part of your backstory that we're just not even gonna.
Yeah, we don't even touch that. Like, you literally have spent your entire life re-examining that, and instead of going back to see who was it that killed your mom and maybe stop that or do something about that, you're just like, oh, my dad was there, and that meant that my mom didn't get stabbed for some reason.
Yeah,
it's not like the guy, like, it doesn't. Especially we don't get enough of those pieces either.
If it's like, you know, if it's like, I feel like in the CW show, it was like, you know, Reverse Flash, basically. Yeah. Like, so it's like theoretically another metahuman kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the dad being there is not going to suddenly stop the mom from dying. It's going to mean both of them die.
Both of them die, or or like, yes, either both of them probably die, and it's like, okay, now Barry's just orphaned, or maybe his dad's the one that dies instead, and his mom's blamed for it. Like, yeah,
it's just it's weird. They a lot of this movie is like, we want to have our cake and eat it too, but like the cake's just never good. It's kind of my takeaway.
You're like, your cake's not never good, and I'm like, the cake's good sometimes.
Sure.
That's kind of where we're at with it.
I'm also not a cake person myself.
I know, right? We both wish it was pie. Yeah, all that being said, I think that the overall like arc of like, I like the trajectory of like, also shout out to Michael Keaton delivering the multiverse intro in the best way I think a multiverse or time travel has ever been explained in film, which is just like, you know, you have this, you think it's doing this, but you actually do the cross thing, and now there's a backwards thing that you've created and everything. And then by the time you're done with it, and then just like, you created a multiverse. Noodles. And it's like, how good is that? Like, that is so good.
Yeah.
And Michael Keaton, like, shout out to him. He's fantastic in this movie. Him reclaiming Batman and also introducing, goes, well, you're still Batman. I haven't been Batman in such a long time. Gotham's one of the safest cities in the world now.
Yeah.
It's like, and so we get to see kind of like, they walk in and it's kind of like this cool, like, he only lives in like part of the house now because that's like where his life is. And he's just like listening to cool, like 70s rock and roll and making pasta in the middle of the day and just like enjoying life. And I'm like, I dig that we got like this Bruce Wayne got to this point where he's like at peace.
Yeah. Before we jump to that though, I guess, like, yeah, sure, going back to, okay, like, yeah,
Flashpoint
he changed the past. Some entity gets he punches him out of the Speed Force.
I was like, I'm like, how are they introducing the Reverse Flash right now rather than at any other earlier point? That's crazy.
And that was, yeah, like that came in. I was like, I feel like that's probably going to end up being himself. He has somehow punched himself out of the Speed Force, but we'll see how that resolves. Obviously, it does later. But so that throws him back into, when he was 18, he shows up at his parents' house and yay, they're alive. It worked. Huzzah. But he's obviously much younger.
You look old.
You look old. So you changed your hair. Yeah.
It's like, you look old. And just, I'm be like, why tell me he looks old? It's like, I'm more mature. You can get into bars.
Yeah.
I will say, I love the mom. I love the mom. I do enjoy I'm sure either actor would have been great in that role. I think that she does such, like, she brings such life into this role that otherwise is a very much like I'm a good mom, and it's like, it brings some flair and it gives some flavor to her, and I enjoy that a lot out of it.
Yeah, like,
could have gone without her being CGI'd holding up an 18th birthday cake though, for a good couple frames.
Yeah, that was definitely weird. Yeah, she was fine. Like, didn't didn't wow me, but also wasn't bad at all. Um, it just kind of serves the purpose of Nora Allen, basically. Like, does what you expect that character to do in this kind of story of like, oh yeah, she's very clearly a loving mom, clearly had an impact on Barry losing her, so she's back, and that clearly has an impact that, you know, Barry gets to enjoy seeing her alive again. Um, like the then we get the fun, like, okay, now that timeline's Barry is showing up, of course. um and so we get kind of the intro of the dynamic between the two of them there. Because I hadn't read the Flashpoint stuff, I didn't know to expect, okay, Barry 1's going to lose his powers and Barry 2's going to get the powers. So
Oh, that's not what happens in Flashpoint, the comic book.
okay, I mean, based on other reviews I've seen, it seems to have been.
I don't recall. Oh no, he loses his powers in Flashpoint, but I don't recall it being because he gives it to another Barry.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, sorry.
No.
Yeah.
But you are like, yes.
So yeah, him losing his powers,
trying to give the other Barry his his own powers. Yeah.
Like, I enjoyed that because then it also gives us like, oh, we get to see a Flash origin story kind of thing, which obviously we didn't get in the films proper. The fucking like tooth popping out of his mouth into the other Barry's mouth, all the way around to the you know, last beat of the movie, was another one of those things. Didn't work for me at all.
Fair. I didn't care for it either, but it also didn't bother me.
Yeah. This is another area where like the CG was just also not good. But it led to fun. Okay, younger, dumber Barry learning his powers, and older, emotionally more mature or whatever Barry, kind of having like getting increasingly frustrated, having to play mentor to younger, dumber Barry.
I think there's something fun about it where it's not just age, it's also like one's severely traumatized and one's way less traumatized as well, to the maturity level aspect of it.
Yeah, like there was a moment of like, okay, I appreciate that like Barry 1 has this like moment of self-reflection of like, oh god, this is why everybody hates me because I hate me in this moment. Like it was a nice little beat there.
Yeah. I enjoyed that a lot.
But yeah, like it very much was like, okay,
the thing that we're
getting a different, now we're getting a different Barry Allen, a different flavor of Barry Allen. I don't like this one either.
Okay.
Was very much like my continued frustration. It's like the tech of Ezra talking to Ezra and stuff. Again, like that's like the one shining beacon of the movie's CG. But I just was like, I don't like either of you. So having to spend so much of this movie watching two of you is just wearing me down.
Okay, yeah, no, I here's the thing. I like both interpretations of Barry Allen's character. I liked both Barrys. But I also really enjoyed the younger me is so dumb aspect of it. That never grated on me. So.
So yeah, then we
get to I think your most hated scene, maybe.
Which one are we getting to?
He runs around and then burns his clothes off and is naked, and it's a cartoon mess.
Yeah, that whole
with
sequence,
the whole thing with with a fucking Acme fireworks truck. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like, it was fun seeing him after that, like, come back in and
do that.
Older Barry be like, what did you do? Nothing. But like clearly naked, wearing, you know, with just a tambourine on or whatever. And then like he gets the rope and then he immediately phases and loses clothes again, through the floor. That, like, there was a funny beat there. But yes, the young dumb Barry being like, I have powers, and then just immediately bolting and running down the street.
Yeah, the
setup of like, yes, Speedy Gonzalez, ha ha ha. Like, it is like, not only is it like just bad, it's also like this meta thing of like, oh, also gross like corporate synergy of Warner Brothers and DC.
I didn't even think about that.
And Looney Tunes. It's like everything that was bad about the Space Jam movie, A New Legacy. So yeah, and then like, okay, so they set it up. Yes, Speedy Gonzalez, and then he just turns legitimately into a Speedy Gonzalez slash Looney Tunes cartoon where a music truck just has instruments falling out of the back of it, and so you have just a cacophony of noise and chaos and pianos rolling down the street while Barry's clothes are on fire and everything's getting fucked up, and he blows things up and knocks out the power and all that stuff. It's just like, oh my god. It was the same level. It's not necessarily like this was my least favorite moment of the movie.
Oh, okay.
But
when we talked about it last night, it felt like it was
it's the same. For me, it is the same level of bad as the opening sequence. So it was like, okay, yeah, any goodwill that they're like maybe starting to build back up with me of like this tale of two berries and this kind of thing just immediately like plummets back down again. Like it's okay, you lost me at the beginning of this movie, started to try and bring me back, and nope, we're back down to a baseline of I don't like this. And so like the movie just kind of kept doing that to itself of like getting in its own way. And so it very much was like oh my god, I'm just rolling my eyes through that entire sequence.
Remember when I said I've never had a movie try to get me to not like it so much? It's one of these moments.
Yeah.
I love the comedic beats when the two of them are together, but the entire like doing the power thing, it catches on fire, like that entire sequence. I think that it could have been great if it had been like he's running around, his clothes start catching on fire, he freaks out about it, and then it cuts to Barry looking out the window, seeing the explosion, and then other Barry coming in with like a tambourine, like not explaining the tambourine.
Absolutely
would have made that hilarious.
Yes, agreed.
Like
if you had deleted out that whole Looney Tunes Acme music truck sequence and just had him come back with a tambourine over his naked penis, it'd been like, what the fuck happened there? That is a perfect like,
yeah, it's just
don't show that moment and your mind will create the most crazy, a far more elaborate, absurd thing than what you actually show us, which just looks bad.
What I would have enjoyed though is if he had done it, it's like, what did you do? Nothing. I swear nobody died. Like that would have been a fun moment. Have been like nothing. I did something, but everybody, like nobody died. It's okay. And then like goes into the bathroom and gets the rope, and then drops down and does that, and then comes back up with the pot. Like these things are funny, but you showed us the joke. Like it's when you hammer on me sometimes for explaining my jokes when I don't think that you get it, but you do get it, and you just didn't think they were funny.
Yes, very much.
It's like that. Like I understand and I get it, and also this, but yeah, it's very much that for me. It was it's like I hated this because why did you get in the way of your own joke? And I like that they don't always get in the way of their own jokes, but moments like that keep happening in this movie, and it's really frustrating.
Yeah, it does start to like the next day we get back to the like, okay, the loft with the other roommates and stuff, and that's where we get the like Eric Stoltz Back to the Future-ness introduction, and that's like a fun That's,
like how badly did I
this world is different. Eric Stoltz is Marty McFly in this world. A thing specific to like my generation that knows that and knows like the history. Like I don't know if the 10-year-olds going to see this movie are going to understand what the fuck that
what
joke is about.
10-year-olds see a DC movie?
I mean, like these things are targeted towards like a PG-13 like audience.
I know they are, but I just don't know why you'd take a child to see a movie that's so unfun like DC movies are.
Because they're comic book movies.
That's fair.
So yeah, I like it's definitely a joke for like our generations and older. Probably goes completely over the head of the younger generation, but the joke is a funny joke, and then it does lead into that like like Kevin or not.
Yeah, it's Michael J. Fox, the guy from Footloose.
Oh yeah.
No, Kevin Bacon, guy from Top Gun, Maverick, gay volleyball scene.
Yeah, there you go. Yes,
and it's like, and I'm like, and he goes, "What?" Like
dominoes of other starring roles or whatever.
Yeah, it's like it plays into that, but it's also that's when he says, "Oh no, I've screwed up the timeline."
Yeah. and then we get like the Zod stuff like coming back, which very weird sequence of events of like, okay, on September 29th or whatever, Barry gets his powers, and then the very next day Zod aliens existed and tried to take over the world and introduce the world to Superman, but it gives him a chance to try and find the Justice League that doesn't exist in this timeline and all that stuff.
Victor Stone is just a quarterback.
He's still just a dude in high school. No crazy cyborg powers yet. And that's weirdly the only reference to him. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of like drama with Ray Fisher in the.
To be fair, Ray Fisher's not the problem.
Yes, absolutely no.
We've been talking about Ezra Miller being a problem. Ray Fisher is 100% not the problem.
Yeah. But yeah, it's still like they give every other member of the Justice League a little bit of lip service. Superman a little bit less so, but they at least had him like on, saving a area from a volcano or something like that. So the fact that like Cyborg doesn't really get anything in this movie, it's like
Alfred fills the cyborg role, which is super weird and awkward.
Yeah. But it's just a like Warner Brothers really being petty about that. Like fuck them.
Yep, 100%. Ray
Yeah.
Fisher called your racist sass out, and you just don't want to deal with it. Fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah, like, so we get, okay, none of those other characters exist. Like, Wonder Woman could probably still exist here, but, like, obviously has not.
Well, he also doesn't know about, like...
he didn't know...
Like, Themyscira.
He didn't know what her history was anyway, so... But yeah...
Because she's so disconnected to...
I mean, like, in this time, as I think, like, kind of funny joke, like, she was, saving people in the 80s and then just, disappeared from the world again until Doomsday, kind of thing. So,
yeah.
Anyway, but yes, then we get to Wayne Manor. We get all the...
Oh my gosh, so many great...
It is, like... It would have been very interesting to see this without this stuff having been given away in the trailers and stuff like that.
Right, yeah. I had the same thought. I had the same exact thought while watching. I was like, if you didn't know that this was supposed to be happening right now in front of you,
yeah,
this would be this would be the craziest, like, reveal ever. Because the moment you go in and you see, like, the art, like, the armory room is insane. Like as somebody who, like, I am still beholden to 1989 Batman. I was born in 1989. I grew up, from the time I was 2 years old, I've loved Batman. And so, like, Batman 1989 and Batman Returns are, like, a cornerstone of my, like, toddlerhood onward. And so I flipped, because I've seen Batman 89, like, a billion times.
And you're lost at what 10-year-olds are going to see DC movies?
I stand completely corrected by myself. Great point. Also, probably shouldn't have let me see Batman Returns because Penguin's horrifying.
Yeah. I mean, like,
it's like, Cameron, why are you so screwed up?
Very deliberately dark movies. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, Cameron, why are you so screwed up? I don't know. Probably because I was like, I like Batman, and I got to see these two really, like, fucked up movies for kids.
Mm-hmm. We did get, like, one of my low key, like, favorite little cameos in here was Tamora Morrison showing up as Arthur Curry's dad, who just did not, encounter Nicole Kidman in this universe.
Oh, dude, when he says, your wife is the queen of Atlantis, looks back and it's just this lady, like, old on a couch, just like...
He's like, all right, asshole.
He's like, fuck you. She's like a half fish lady. And he's like, looked back, he goes, no, I don't think I married. Like, don't think so. And to that, and then he goes, so is she like a half fish lady? And he goes, oh, fuck you, man. Like, that's my wife. Like,
yeah,
so good.
It's a like, I was like, okay, that's a fun way to, like, incorporate other characters in this universe. Yeah, the whole Alfred thing at the beginning also very weird, and especially weird because I didn't think about this as much in the moment, but I was definitely thinking about it after the fact. Like, how do people talk to Barry while he's doing his speed thing?
Because he's going faster.
He's going well faster than like Alfred's saying a thing, and Barry's probably only catching it when he's not speed steering. Like,
or it sounds like he has to, like, process it audibly.
Yeah, if he's hearing anything from Alfred while he's in this, like, while he's doing his speed thing, it's coming in super slow. And so, yeah, he's not, like, he's having to, like, mentally deal with that. So, yeah, it's just, like, it's weird stuff.
And nobody ever explains it. How do you talk to Flash while he's speeding?
Yeah. I think maybe they like addressed it a little bit in the CW. I feel like I remember that being a thing that came up in the CW show, but I only watched like the first couple seasons.
I watched a lot of the seasons until I was just like, I've seen the same plot. You guys are going back on this plot.
I'm saying like they probably brought it up in like a scene and that was it.
Maybe.
So
yeah. I mean, I watched a lot of it. Who's to say?
Yeah. Yeah. So then we get a fun little intro Batman as the dude fight sequence. I liked the callback to what does he throw? He throws like a pot at Barry, and Barry basically, like, Barry 2 dodges it in the exact same way that Barry 1 dodged the Batarang from Batman, and catches it. And there's like those moments are fun little callbacks and stuff like that. A lot of the other Easter eggs and stuff that we'll get to especially later are just like, okay, what purpose do these serve? But apart from getting people to pop and whatnot.
I'm wondering if when I mentioned earlier about Easter eggs, if I'm thinking, oh no, I think it was just like it was reusing Keaton's equipment from the OG Batman movies.
I mean, I
think that's less of an Easter egg and just more like, no, it's that Batman, so he's using those tools.
Yeah, I mean that is like, yeah, that old Batmobile and like the old like Bat computer and stuff like that. That is absolutely like nostalgia, but it's also like just nostalgia for '89, especially the Batmobile that does nothing in this movie except gets, unwrapped and then is there for the audience to be like, look how fucking cool it is. They brought the '89 Batmobile back. Okay, never gets any action, never does anything, so it's just there for fan servicey kind of stuff.
Is it weird that I flipped out more for the roller mouse of the Bat computer? Because I remember as a kid being like, wow, that he just like his computer had just like a ball that he used for his mouse.
I mean, that there is also like, that is a degree because they don't get into details about it of like, okay, did Batman just stop did he stop needing to be Batman in the 90s? And that's why none of his tech advanced any further. Like him doing the thing with the flip phone and stuff like that. It's like, why is his tech so old?
I think that's kind of the point. It's like, yeah, he hasn't been Batman for like 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Because I think he solved the problem that Batfleck mentioned. If I really want to stop crime, I should end poverty. Well, he was under the lasso of truth. Maybe that's what, like, that feels like the Keaton aspect, like the Keaton kind of feel of that Batman is he's like, yeah, like...
Oh, no, I don't think he did that at all. I don't think he gave away his money.
I don't think he gave away his money. I think he just helped end poverty by, I don't know, maybe changing up the fucking system. I don't
know. But yeah, like the little fight scene there, fun. The explanation of this multiverse stuff, fun. But also like, how the fuck do you know all this, Bruce Wayne? Like, like, have you dealt with this before? It's weird that you're just saying this all so matter of fact, as if it is a known thing. And I get like, real, like it. My qualm here would have been like eliminated if he'd been like, well, maybe it's like this, and kind of does the whole like pasta stuff. The fact that he's like just saying it as if like, no, this is what you've done, is like, how the fuck do you know that, dude? Like, so that's where I disagree with you in terms of like, this is the best time. This is the best way time travel has ever been explained in a movie. I still am going to point to, and they, call it out and kind of shit on it here, but I will point to Back to the Future, because like, no, time is fucking linear. Like that, like you can say it's not just for the sake of a movie, but like we're constantly moving forward in time. There's not a way to change what did happen, and if you do change what did happen, why would that change things going further back? Like that's, it's just a weird. DC's fucking weird.
No argument here from that for me on that aspect.
But yes, it is a fun like the payoff of like. And what's the Parmesan reference? I think the analogy's over. It's just garnish. Good gag there.
That still makes me laugh. there's this movie's got jokes, man. It's got jokes, and they're good jokes.
It's got a few. I'll give you a few. But so now Barry's on the hunt to find Clark and figure out like what's going on there. Ultimately has like a talking to the camera thing with Batman about like, so you also had an Alfred. What are these constants in our universes? This is weird.
Yep.
And then Bruce basically agrees to help, cleans himself up. They go off to Siberia to save Kara. In a fun little sequence, we get
shout out to the Soviet Union still being around.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's not Soviet Union so much as just like, oh, it's just like a Russian black site kind of thing.
I really got the feeling of it when they showed the Red Star and they started playing the Russian, like Soviet, like bad guy music.
I mean, sure, yeah. I mean, the fact that it's like, there's another thing, like, if I hadn't already seen Kara in the trailers, I would have been like, are they about to do some like Red Sun stuff here? That'd be interesting.
Like that would have been bringing up a good question, you know?
We get a fun little action sequence there. We get the little like the payoff to the thing earlier of Barry saying like, don't like, you can't move people. It doesn't end well when Barry 2 moves Barry 1 and Barry's like, what did you do? And just vomits.
So good. Also, I will say
we get to see like fun this Batman in action stuff.
Yeah. Also Barry like being like, okay, like we're gonna be sneaky, and immediately just like knocking that thing over. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. It happens like it falls so slowly. I kept waiting for him to use his fucking abilities to catch it and stop it from falling. And he didn't, so I'm like, why is this the beat? All right.
I dug it. I thought it was funny. But
yeah, like I think I would have liked it better. Of like, it's what it is I don't like him being so incompetent. I think is probably what it is. And sure, it's like day 2 of him on the job or whatever, but it's still like
day 1. This is his like first time actually out as Flash.
Yeah.
Also, love it when he gets shot. And he goes, "What? Like, why did you
get shot? Why did you think we couldn't?" Yeah.
Such a good.
Yeah.
But also explains why the Flash doesn't just like take. Well, we saw why he can't move people that fast, but also like why he doesn't do it just there. I
mean, but we've also like we've seen him like. I was not expecting him to move Barry 1. I was expecting him to go and like grab the bullet and like pull all the bullets aside kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, like I would have been perfectly fine if it had been like a beat of like, oh, it starts to fall and he like uses the speed thing to catch it and then something else falls that he didn't see or didn't notice or something like that. That I would have been fine with. But the fact that he just like watches this thing slowly tumble to the ground and then everybody like it is the Spider-Verse joke of like they walk in, they're like, all right, everybody like be calm, grab a bagel, and then everybody like sees them and flips out and stuff like that. It's like, except not without the payoff of like a bagel joke that then is going to obviously, you know, have a significant ramifications in the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like it serves the purpose of giving you a fun like Batman 89 kind of action set piece kind of thing of him coming in, using his a bunch of his gadgets, using his abilities and stuff like that, using his smarts. And then they go find Kara. I like it being Barry 1 that's like, we got to save her. I'll get her. You guys, like the one who is underpowered and can't do anything, still trying to be a hero in that moment.
Has payoff later too. I do like that a lot. That he's the first person to suggest that they take her. Yeah. That they rescue her.
And he says to her, "I've got you." So when she was lifting him up later, she says to him, "I've got you," which is a payoff to that moment earlier, as well as a payoff to Christopher Reeve's Superman. "I've got you." It's like a nice little like double entendre reference kind of thing.
Yep. There's that. I think the escape sequence is fun. Where Batman asks him, how much do you weigh?
Yeah, he pulls out a gadget you think it's going to be something, and it's just like a measuring tape.
Yeah,
Like,
dude, yeah, it was so good.
Bat measuring tape. How much do you weigh? 160, and she's probably 140.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Barry too starts to go, and Barry was just like, we're both 180. She's probably she's got to be 140. And he goes, all right. And does.
Which feels heavy for her in that emaciated state, but yeah. Then she gets out in the sun, superpowered, and she comes in Rex shop. Would look cooler if not for bad CG.
I think when she's on the ground and she's in the snow and the way the snow's moving is cool, but the up in the air and the guys doing like 30 Wilhelm screams is over the top and too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, when the moment she does the slow-mo impact on the guy, his quality drops significantly, and it's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she's not in the Speed Force. Why is his CG bad? I don't know.
Exactly. No, those babies weren't in the CG in the Speed Force. Why was their quality bad? Yeah, we get so then they all go back and they're like, all right, well, we found her, so that's like, you know, the one person back, and then as that where we're like, okay, Barry needs to figure out how to get his powers back still.
Yep.
They have at some point we had the Barrys having their argument. We have one of the Barrys overhearing that
Barry 2
Barry 2 overhears that Barry 1 came back to save his mom.
Well, it's like, why, like, you can leave now. Why, like, once you get your powers, why won't you just leave? Because this is the world where, like, my mom gets to live.
Yeah.
Like, because he brings up, you can go anywhere in the multiverse once you get your powers back. Why are you still going to stick around?
Yeah. Why are you fighting so hard to save this world? Yeah.
Yeah. I like that a lot. I like Kara being like, humans fucking suck.
Yeah.
Later, and then finding out Kryptonians fucking suck.
Yeah.
The like, infant didn't survive. It's like Zod. Oh my god.
And that's, yeah. I mean, I like one of the things that obviously I haven't gotten to explore a lot in, I guess maybe it was in Supergirl. I never really watched Supergirl, but the idea that like she lived a good chunk of her life on Krypton before coming. So she knows that like Krypton didn't need to suck. But also she is coming from this world's version of, theoretically, I guess it's a different timeline. Maybe it's not the Russell Crowe Jor-El. But yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, Krypton kind of sucked in its last days there when she would have been around for it. But she, you know, that they play into like the Sybil means hope and we are a people of hope kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, she basically is like, yeah, fuck Earth. I don't care if Earthlings die, because she obviously didn't have the upbringing in Kansas.
She didn't have Kevin Costner going. She didn't have Kevin Costner doing.
Yeah. And then like this again, I think like her story suffers from just a lack of being able to be fleshed out in this, because she sees from afar Zod basically declaring war on people, and that flips the switch for her, and she's like, all right, I'm in, I'm gonna help. And it's like there's like a beat or two of her arc missing.
Yeah.
Either
there
it wasn't written into the movie or it was cut out of the movie. I don't know what the case was there, but
they needed a confrontation earlier, with Zod and her having a conversation, because she's not like a Clark who didn't know Krypton. There could have been a Zod being like, yes, I'm the general, but I'm also like, I can be diplomatic, I can talk, like I'll give demands and terms, but like you're another Kryptonian, you're not alien species, like you're not an inferior like not only are you like Clark being born naturally, also creating a bias for Zod, you're a typical Kryptonian that I can talk to. Then there's a beat missing about that would have been useful there. I think you're right. Just not enough time to flesh that out, or it was cut, or whatever the situation was. But we needed something to give her more than just, oh, Zod's a dick.
Yeah. Also, it's like, why are there so many more Kryptonians in this one than there were in Man of Steel? Because Man of Steel was like Zod and what, like two henchmen, maybe?
Two henchmen. The giant dude and the...
Was the giant dude even in the first one?
Yeah.
Like, I remember it being Zod and the woman, and I thought there was like another guy. Not like the giant guy that we get in this one.
I don't recall if he was supposed to be a giant, if he was originally a giant guy or not, but there was a third dude.
Yeah, that's like, I remember there being 3 Kryptonians.
Yeah.
2 of the ones that line up with this, and then in this one it introduces like basically like the Destroyer from Loki kind of character.
Basically, yeah. He has he's not even a real character.
But then also a whole bunch of other Kryptonians are there with him, and I'm like,
I think it's just a difference that they were like, hey, we need people piloting the ships and stuff.
Yeah. We're not gonna be showing what's happening in Metropolis because we're not gonna be destroying Metropolis again this time.
We don't got the budget.
We're gonna see a glimpse of what happens in Metropolis to show you that like kid that Barry saved in his flashback super gonna die this time.
Yep.
And then it's like, okay, so this time around we're gonna have the end fight out in the desert, so there's no collateral damage, or at least we're gonna focus on the collateral damage that's happening across the world.
We're not gonna have Zod and Superman fly through Metropolis fighting each other in a DBZ fight that ends with the death of literally tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
We're just gonna get the earthquake effect that definitely killed tens of thousands of people.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, like,
Kara does turn it off eventually.
But and then they turn it back on.
Oh, did they turn it back on right away?
I mean, they kill Kara, so they're going to just use her blood to
it makes sense that they would turn it back on. Yeah, I mean,
you're right. The whole thing that Barry comes to realize is like, oh, this world ends today. Yeah. Like, we can't do anything to save it. This is a finite place in time for this world.
Kara, like the way they explain it in the original Flashpoint comic, and this is where I'll kind of intersect in on this and tell you like what they brought in, what they didn't bring in. In the Flashpoint comic book, Superman doesn't exist out in the world because the U.S. government actually has him contained in a similar facility. And Flash eventually finds him and frees him, but he never really gets past being emaciated because you don't have enough time to absorb enough solar radiation to bring out like the full Superman. It's a lifetime of growing up under the yellow sun that gives him his like incredible amount of reserves of strength. And I think that could have been mentioned at some point, being like, Kara's not up to that because she isn't. They don't give that explanation. She just ends up being, well, no, because she ends up getting one up on Zod in the first part of their fight.
I mean, I don't
know.
In the Snyderverse, they've never really been good about kind of clarifying that.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. No.
She here, as soon as she's out in the sun, we see her like basically her body basically inflate.
Yeah, basically
back to a normal proportions or whatever.
And granted, I guess she was already like a adult under Kryptonian standards, I guess, or maybe just a kid. I don't know.
Yeah.
The point being is it's not there's problems with her just not having enough time to really develop it, and and this world ends. It just ends.
Yeah.
Back to So in Flashpoint, he's emaciated and he only gets like one real important cool scene. Superman's really not the focus of Flashpoint, obviously.
Yeah.
Although I will say, missing from the Flashpoint comic,
he is a big, or at least variations of Superman, a big focus of this Flashpoint story by the based on like the worlds colliding element at the end.
Yeah, definitely. It's all just Superman. It's basically
pretty much. We get.
We'll get to. I think we'll get to it. But this whole but also. If there are people wondering, so that means Zod's not in the comic books. It's actually a massive war between Amazon and Atlantis. Actually, the Mascara versus Atlantis. That's basically the human race is caught up in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Which is cool. It's really cool in the comic books, and there's like a deeper backstory between Aquaman and Wonder Woman and like betrayal and everything. Batman in Flashpoint comic books is actually Thomas Wayne.
Yeah.
And both Thomas and Martha survive, and Martha actually becomes the Joker of Flashpoint.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, she basically goes insane after losing Bruce. Bruce is the one that gets shot.
Bruce dies in that.
Yeah, Bruce gets shot.
Alley,
in Crime Alley, and Thomas becomes a monster. Like basically, imagine the Penguin but Batman. Because he opens up a casino, he becomes like an absolute monster. And Martha goes insane, and basically starts kidnapping. At one point, she kidnaps the Dent children, like twins. And is going to murder them because she becomes a child murderer. It's awful and crazy and well written and well done. It's a great it's obviously multiple series having specials in Flashpoint universe. But they're all really pretty much great.
Yeah. But back in this one, we get a fine CG fight fest slugfest between the flashes and stuff at the end. I didn't like the music choice.
Oh no, I
It
didn't
didn't do
care for the
anything
music
for
at
me. It
all.
was just
No.
kind of like forgettable. Um, they have a couple of fun little team up moments.
Mm-hmm.
No idea why the fuck they have a I'm a Barbie girl or come on Barbie, let's go party.
Neither do I. There's no intro to that at all.
Fucking weird.
It's just wild, out of left field, and I just don't get it.
Yeah. And then yeah, they start like Batman, dies, Kara dies. They try and like reset the timeline, go back. Things play out differently, but Batman and Kara both die again.
Yep.
And that's where we start to realize, oh, this is like Barry 1 realizes, oh, this is futile. This is inevitable. I need to go back and reset things. This world ends today. And Barry 2, unable to live with that. We see like he gets the metal thing in his arm from the Kryptonians. And that's the point where I'm like, oh, it's that Barry that is going to be, far in the future. Did you ever see Lightyear?
No, but you
Okay.
told me about it.
Yeah, it's
basically Lightyear.
Spoilers for Lightyear. It's a similar kind of premise of like, okay, old Barry here is coming back to fuck up young Barry, and so yeah, Barry 2 basically like tries again and again and again and again until he gets all the fucked up stuff on his body armor, and then we get Barry 2, and then like future Barry 2 having their whole confrontation.
Yeah, that ends with the future Barry 2 saying, the thing I need to do now is kill you.
Yeah, I can't send, or so you can't go back and end me. And then Barry 2 steps in, takes the bullet, takes the piercing, whatever.
Ends up killing future Barry 2, obviously.
Yeah, kills both of them, and then Barry 1 goes back to say goodbye to his mom in a fine little send-off scene. It's definitely like...
Before we get into that, though, let's talk about the spheres colliding.
Yes, all that, yes. Yes, the multiverse is colliding where we get... I mean, the highlight of it that you pop for immediately and that we talked about is the giant robot spider.
It's not a robot, it's a biological spider.
Okay. Giant spider being
spider.
fought by what turns out to be the Nicolas Cage Superman from the Death and Return of Superman that never happened, that never was. Payoff to 25 years of Kevin Smith joke and all sorts of stuff there.
The infamous leaked photo of Nicolas Cage in the outfit and everything. I popped for that because, yeah, of course, it's a comic book movie industry like insider story that's been told for years. Famously in the Death and Return of Superman documentary.
Yeah.
Which is really good. If you haven't seen it, go check that out. It's really, really good.
Yeah. Before that, we got or the other people we get in there, we get like Jay Garrick Flash.
Yep.
And that's like the only iteration of the Flash we get in this multiverse story.
And it's specifically Jay Garrick the Flash in the old like 1940s Superman verse.
I mean that's
because that's the black and white one.
That is who it is evoking. I believe the actor playing it is actually one of the actors that played like a Reverse Flash type character. Or I think he played Zoom in the CW show. So weird thing there, but yes, he's wearing like the metal helmet with the wing stuff. It's weird that they didn't bother getting like Ship, whose name I forget, the guy who played it in the 90s version of the series. Since he played that version of the character in the CW show, but
also, yeah, why didn't they also bring in like Grant Gut? Like there's a lot of things. If you're doing CGI cameos, just do everybody.
Exactly. Because like they've come out and been like, oh yeah, like we also looked at having Grant Gustin come in. We looked at there were basically a few other people that they were like looking at for like cameo stuff. Linda Carter, bringing her in for a Wonder Woman reference that they did not do.
Just hear me out, folks. If you went with CGI cameos,
if you fucking did Christopher Reeves, like, and maybe it's. I mean, Grant Gustin, I think, was like vocally annoyed that he didn't like get to be a part of this. Like I can get like others being like, no, you can't use my likeness for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird shit.
Especially after the really great tease years ago on early season of the CW, The Flash, where Ezra Miller shows up in his Flash outfit.
I mean, no, it wasn't an early season of Flash. It was the Flashpoint storyline on the CW show. That was only a couple years ago. um, yeah.
Time works weird for me right now. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But yes, or maybe not. Maybe it wasn't Flashpoint. Maybe it was the Crisis on Infinite Earths. I think that was like the later one.
I think this one was pre-Crisis. No, I think you're right.
I mean, it was
one of the big
only a few
crossover
years
ones.
ago,
Yeah. One of the big crossover ones. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I feel like it was the one where like Brandon Roth was Superman.
Yes, that is it. Yes.
So yeah, I'm pretty
This
sure
all
it was
happened.
Crisis.
He shows up for a quick cameo. That is part of the. That's part of anything, but
anyway,
it's fine.
But yes, it's like that's the one Flash thing in this Flash movie. But then we also get like 66 Adam West Batman. We get other cameos that were I think floated were like Cesar Romero and Meredith Burgess as Joker and Penguin from 66. But yeah, and a Halle Berry Catwoman I think was also maybe in the works at some point.
Gross, no, keep that away. Halle Berry's Catwoman is awful.
Agreed. But yeah, so we get that Batman. Obviously, we've gotten other Batman in this film, and we get Christopher Reeve's Superman. We get what's her name? Helen Slater's Supergirl.
Mm-hmm.
We get obviously the Nick Cage Superman. Do we get any others that are?
I think we covered.
Oh, we get the George Reeves. We get the very early black and white Superman.
That I referenced that earlier when we talked about that Flash. Because it was the black and white George Reeves one. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we get like those little references and like, oh, here's the history of this character or of these DC characters and their worlds are colliding and all that stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, the CG on all those also looks bad.
Weirdly enough, the best one is the Nick Cage one.
Yeah. I mean,
which has no archival footage that you could have pulled for.
Oh that. No! Like they brought in Nick Cage and had hit like they
did they?
Oh
my god!
I'm almost certain he came.
If Dead by Daylight can do it, they can do it too.
He came in and shot for a day on the set and whatnot to get those beats. Yeah.
Why not?
And I was like, he pops up like you popped when you saw the spider, and like just the fact that you popped for it. Like gave me enough context to know like, oh, this is going to be the Nicolas Cage one, isn't it? And sure enough, yeah, he pops up there. And I did find myself thinking, good for you, Nicolas Cage.
Yep.
You like the for a long time, I remember like one of those early Nicolas Cage stories I remember hearing was like him buying, issue 1 of Superman and him being such a big Superman fan.
He named his son Cal after Kal-El.
Yeah, his son. Yeah,
his son's name is Cal. The letter, his middle name starts with an L, but it's Kal-El Cage. Like he loves Superman.
Yeah. So yeah, good for you. Good for you, Nick Cage. I love that you're getting like this nice resurgence these couple years in terms of like everybody's like, yeah, Nicolas Cage is awesome.
Know who's not a problematic person? Nicolas Cage. Turns out, despite being a total weirdo in a bunch of really bad movies, he's actually a good guy.
Pretty good
guy. Didn't you get help by him as a baby?
Yes. As a baby, when my parents took me to audition for Raising Arizona, Nicolas Cage held me in his arms. Yes. So hey, shout out to that. Yeah, it's a weird little cameo fest there, which again is like, to a degree, there's like okay, this is a fun like honoring of the history of things, but it is also a very like selective honoring, and also a very like especially like the Christopher Reeves thing. It's like, yeah, this is weird. Like I don't know how I don't know the ethics and the coolness of this. Like I imagine they did this and they got the appropriate like sign-offs from estates and stuff like that, but it still feels weird.
It feels weird, and also let's also talk about it. It looks bad.
I mean, yeah.
I would feel less weird about it if it was good. The fact that it's bad just makes me feel even worse about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, and so basically, okay, Barry finally goes back, resets the timeline, says bye to his mom, and then fucking moves realizes, oh, if I put the tomato up there, he'll have to look up.
Which
And
goes
that's
back to
what
our
he does.
earlier conversation about like not changing like events happening, but just changing how one of them was recorded.
Yeah.
Which turns out you get George Clooney back as in George Clooney's opinion, gay Batman.
Sure.
In this world, Bruce Wayne is gay, and I'll let you know I'm okay with that.
Sure. And yeah, so he gets the date with Iris.
Mm-hmm.
Because she basically is like, hey, you should ask me out. And hey, that's clear enough for him to not misread that signal. Also,
Almost
shout
does.
out going all the way back to their little like date scene. Shout out to the moment of him phasing through the wall to go get beers.
Yes. So
again, like, fucking stop stealing stuff. But at least that was a fun thing, and then the payoff of like him opening it and just exploding it,
yeah,
and him just
putting it down,
trying to pass it off. Like, it would have been, I think a funnier bit would have been her opening it and exploding, and him being like, "I'm so sorry," or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, I don't know if it would have been fun. I just that it exploded, and then just his sleeve is wet, and so he's just like trying to like air out his sleeve but not be like a weirdo about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it not coming off, and then of course that creating the conversation about going back and saving his mom.
And then we get the George Clooney or Bruce calls Flash talks, we hear a little bit of Bruce of like, hey, that's great, doesn't sound like Ben Affleck, so
nope.
Something's amiss. And they hold on not showing the person long enough that it's like, okay, they're gonna do something here. And then last little cameo, George
Can I be
Clooney.
honest? I actually expected to be like Robert Pattinson.
That's when we see like the foot coming out of the thing, that was what I was expecting too. But yeah, nope. They went with Clooney instead.
I'll be honest. I think it would have been better if it was Robert Pattinson.
I think it would have been more cohesive to modern DC, sure. But like, I mean, the whole purpose of this is to generate the clicks of George Clooney's cameo, at the end of the movie, kind of thing, compared to like Robert Pattinson wouldn't have gotten as much traction.
Shame
isn't getting as many explainer videos and stuff like that. So, and then we get a nothing of an end credits scene of drunk Arthur Curry talking to Barry, and Barry kind of like telling him about everything, to just bring in one more Justice League cameo of one of the people who still has a movie left, I guess. Okay, there we go, and we're done.
That gross puddle. This is my my kingdom, or this is my home, or whatever he says. I think that's a sign to us that Aquaman 2 is going to be a dirty puddle of water.
I mean,
of a film.
The first movie isn't good.
I haven't seen it. So
made a ton of money. Not good. It's.
I realize now I'm gonna have to see it because we're probably gonna go see it together.
I mean, we don't have to. We didn't see Shazam, so like
that's fair. We can just skip.
Can
we close it? Are you and I closing the chapter on the DC cinematic universe with this?
I'm curious about Blue Beetle. I'm curious enough.
I do want to see Blue Beetle.
I want to see that one.
I do want to see Blue Beetle.
But
just if anything to support the film, like I just hope it does well enough. I think the new title frame for it looks sick. I'm loving that.
I didn't even know that was new.
I don't recall. I don't let me rephrase that. This time that I've noticed it, I thought it looked sick.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah, that'll be interesting. I mean, like I asked you like middle of the week last week, like, hey, do you want to go see The Flash this weekend? You were like, yeah, and I was like, okay. If you had said no, I would have been like, cool. I would have been perfectly happy to not see The Flash.
I thought that was more of like a hey, because you're like, oh yeah, they're like this time. I was like, okay, let's do it. I thought it was more of like you were like you saying we should do this, not like a.
Oh yeah, no.
Do you want to do this?
No, that was me just asking like, hey, are you going to want to see The Flash this weekend? And then after that, after you were like, yeah, I was like, oh, heads up, I work Friday night, so it'll have to be Saturday if we go see it.
I was I was like, that's perfect because I also ended up working late on Friday anyway, covering for an event. So
yeah, I would have been perfectly fine. Like it's, I don't regret going and seeing it. It's still a fun enough thing to sit down and talk about, but I also could have completely missed this movie, and I feel like I would not have missed a lot.
I am in agreement with you there. That's why I think we both said, like, if you're not like aching to see this movie, like, don't feel like you need to go see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like when people ask like, oh, like, I did not consider the Batman to be like a like DC category movie. When I said like the DC movies are like, why would you take people to go see, like, why would you take your kids to go see them? They're not good. I don't consider that part of it because I think of it as separate, but really I think it comes down to, I think if you like, I'm okay passing on Aquaman 2. One, because that means I don't have to watch Aquaman 1 to know what the heck is going on.
Mm-hmm.
But also two, I think this is a proper good close for the DC EU film project.
And it is going to just get weird from here, because it is like, okay, yeah, this one is kind of putting a button on this chapter of the DC films, and then Blue Beetle is kind of in this universe and kind of a character in the next universe. Aquaman, obviously, a character in this universe, probably not going to be Jason Momoa continuing on as Aquaman again in the new DC. If anything, rumors seem to be like, oh, he's going to switch over to Lobo and be in a movie over there as Lobo in James Gunn's universe. Who knows?
Oh, okay.
If that actually ends up coming to pass. But
I thought you meant like he was going to go to Marvel and be Lobo. I was like, Lobo's not a Marvel character.
No. Yeah.
But no, I know what you mean now. Yeah. Like be part of like the new James Gunn cinematic universe, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Like, and again, they're doing a Supergirl. I hope they bring Sasha Calle back.
I hope she comes back. She was so good. She's such a bright light in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I really loved her. I loved her Kara. I think that
everything I've seen in like interviews, like she loves that she's getting to play this role, and it's super exciting for her, and like it's a very emotional kind of it is, you know, diversity in casting and stuff like that, so there's an element there of like very cool to see representation.
I saw the video of her getting her action figure
and
like freaking out about it, and I'm just like, I love this. I love her. I've never seen her in anything else. I don't need to. She's great. Bring her back. I think she's awesome.
Yeah,
she brought a level of complexity of like, I have problems with humanity. Then she's like, but I'm not a bad person, and so I don't want to see humanity just like obliterated. Like there's a whole lot of complexity to the character that she got to play that I think she executed on.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to see her in more things, not just as Supergirl, just in general. I need to do more research on her and find out more of what she's been in. She's fantastic.
Yeah. So yeah, that's our spoiler cast here of The Flash.
Mm-hmm.
A movie I will hopefully not think about too much more, and probably not watch anytime soon. All right, well, I think that is going to do it for this episode of That Nerdy Site Show. Thank you, Cam, for joining me to discuss it, warts and all. You can follow Cameron at RevCabot, 2 B's, 2 T's. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, go watch me play Jedi Fallen Order on youtube.com/thatnerdysite. It's a good time. We're having fun. I need to put together the latest episode this week, and so Trevor doesn't have to remind me. And yeah,
hey, you're off all day tomorrow. So.
I am off all day tomorrow. But I'll do it tonight too, just to get it, like, the ball rolling on it anyway. Yeah, we're wrapping up. Last week was episode 15, I think, and so we are in the last
a month, right?
Aren't we have
19 episodes.
Yeah, no, 20 episodes total. 20 episodes? So okay. Yeah, we have like another month basically of this. So by end of July, like this entire series is wrapped.
There you go.
And like you're probably wondering, Cameron, what's next? And it's like, I don't know. I haven't recorded anything.
Yeah.
Just like, it's been a fun time. I think it really goes into, if you want to go back after you do that and watch my Let's Play of Jedi Survivor and see kind of like my enjoyment coming into that game. Because I do leave Jedi Fallen Order on a really high note. And so like you're in for the fun stuff now. That dumb, stupid bat's gone.
Yes, indeed.
Upside down scrotum looking motherfucker. That thing. Yeah, so go watch that. It's fun. It's a fun time. You get to see me react to things and play the game, and it's a good time. Lightsabers.
There you go, indeed. You follow me at Trevor J. Starkey. In echoing that, you can go watch me currently playing through Tears of the Kingdom on Tuesdays and Thursdays. since that's one of the big new games out there. At some point, I think you and I will have to sit down and play some Diablo.
100%. I think if we start,
Now that we're
maybe we
getting in
should
there
start new
in
characters
late level stuff, or
late level
like
stuff.
we already like we did.
Oh, it's true. We did
the
that,
early
yeah.
access demo thing, so I feel like we don't need to play like the beginning. I think like it can just be a let's play of us doing
Late game
stuff,
yeah,
late game or post game stuff, even
take on maybe a world boss or something. We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see what floats our fancy.
So we got that. Eventually, we'll probably get back to Elden Ring.
The fire giant is on the horizon.
It's out there. Yeah,
we see it
because there's probably like a few weeks still of my Tears of the Kingdom stuff. Like, let's see, this week is the last of the temples. It's going off to Gerudo Valley, so that's what you have to look forward to on Tears of the Kingdom stuff. And then after that, it's like a couple miscellaneous episodes, I think, and then go kill Ganon. So yeah, probably only a couple more weeks of Tears of the Kingdom stuff. So I'm gonna have to figure out what to do on Tuesdays and Thursdays again. But we also have Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I was going to say full Final Fantasy 16 Let's Play.
I don't know if I'll do that because
you want to enjoy it.
I want to enjoy it, and B, the Let's Plays of like I will be able to do like a Starfield Let's Play in the vein of
there you go
these ones.
Yeah,
because like it is I can focus on story stuff for the Let's Plays, but there's still plenty of other stuff for me to do. I'm sure there are like side quests and stuff, but I don't know the makeup of that in Final Fantasy 16. So yeah, but we'll see. I'm sure since I've already played through the prologue, there will be here's what came next. I'll do another 16 Let's Play there, I'm sure, eventually. Yeah, stay tuned for all of our Let's Plays out there on youtube.com/thatnerdsite. And also, shout out to our Indiana Jones month on That D Plus show. We did the original trilogy the last few weeks. We're doing Kingdom of the Crystal Skull this week. So we're just in for a good week of movies, I guess, you and I.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll have that to talk about this Friday. And then Dial of Destiny won't be a That D Plus show next week, but we'll probably do a spoiler cast of that one here in a couple weeks' time on this podcast. So stay tuned for all of that fun stuff.
As a side shout out real quick, I do want to give a massive shout out to Uppercut. They are currently doing their Kickstarter fundraiser for their annual budget. They're doing something different this year to raise money for it. I put some money towards it already. That being said, they're an awesome group of people. Ty, who is the editor-in-chief over there, is doing great work. For people who don't know, they did the EGM article recovery project that got all these EGM writers that would have been SOL to get their stuff published out there and paid. Most importantly, they got paid for it for their industry rate. And then also they've done it for like end of the year letter stuff, helping generate opportunities for writers, especially people who are not your typical guys who look like Trevor and I, doing like a coverage and everything. So go check them out. They're an incredible outlet. They're doing great work, and they're raising money right now to make sure that people can get paid for the work that they are doing. So
indeed. You can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site, or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you for listening. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.